My name is Andrew Baker. I'm the Managing Director of a rights consultancy based in Yorkshire called Rights TV. Although you might think you're in the business of making television programmes or online content or anything like that, essentially what you're doing is you're creating rights. And that really is your stock in trade. That is what you are selling, that is what you're creating, and that's what will actually generate revenue for your business. So it's probably useful just to talk a bit about, what is it that you actually do have? What are your rights? The terms of trade came in 1994, and what they were designed to do was to try and put back in the hands of producers the ability to do something with their programmes. The really good thing that's come out of the terms of trade is that although the BBC and Channel 4 and ITV take UK broadcast rights to show it on their channel, it actually leaves you with everything else. Only the terrestrial channels offer you the terms of trade. Sky does not need to offer you the terms of trade, but has commercially made a decision that what they'll do is they'll give you a deal that is a bit of a hybrid. They'll let you have UK, or rather they will keep UK rights, but they'll also keep Republic of Ireland. And what they'll do is they'll appoint you as their distributor to exploit those rights internationally. And of course they'll get a revenue share. When you get down to the satellite channels, and by the way, this includes the Channel 4 cable and satellite channels and Freeview channels, there is no terms of trade. There is no government regulation saying that you must get a fair deal. They will quite happily do a deal with you where you take nothing away. They'll fully finance your programme, and that's it. There's been a lot of accusations of netting off, which obviously the BBC denies, but which does happen. And it happens on all the other channels, where effectively they say, instead of paying you 100% of the budget, because we're only getting a certain amount of rights now, we're going to actually say, well, you go raise the rest of the money. You now have international sales, you've got DVD rights, you've got some online rights. There's now markets for these rights. Why should we pay all of your budget and leave you with these rights? It's costing us more money than we need to. If we're only buying a UK transmission, we're going to pay you for a UK transmission, and that's it. So all of a sudden, producers have gone from a stage of being fully financed and having no rights to actually not always being fully financed, in fact, most of the time now not being fully financed, but having rights. The 5-year window that the broadcasters terrestrially give you is on the basis that they're paying you that licence fee. Because they're also a major funder, they get credits on the end and editorial control and all these sorts of things, but they also get 15% of any profits that you make from selling the rights internationally and doing other things. So if you do, for some reason, manage to get a fantastically funded commission and you think, great, we've got all these rights, we can make a pile of cash, well, you can, but the broadcasters do take their slice as well. In reality, there is always room for manoeuvre. They start off from a position of saying that they want 5 years exclusive and you can't sell anything in the UK, but actually after a certain period of time, the broadcasters are all more than happy to have a conversation with you about windowing those programmes on other channels. You can't window between BBC and ITV or Channel 4, but actually if you want to window between BBC and UK TV or Channel 5 and Discovery, then you can do it. The slight sting is that the broadcaster will take half of all the money you raise. At the moment, the mantra is, if you have a production that is going to be a commission, you really should be looking at what happens online. BBC commissioners in particular have all been told that they have to look at the online extensions to their programmes. Now, not every programme is going to have a website, and not every website is actually going to have more than just some basic information on it. But actually, there is a separate budget in the BBC for interactive-based projects. And if you do have a commission with them, it's crazy not to be thinking about how you can maximise that value. Quite often, if you're doing a factual programme or a drama or a documentary, all the research, all the information, all the content that you would want to put online is already there. You've done all the hard work already. But the BBC or Channel 4 or even ITV will quite happily create a new budget with lines in there for researchers and exec producers and everything else that actually involves you taking that content and the research and the information you have and formulating it in a way that it's actually accessible online. So it is very much about content brands now. And for you guys, it's therefore about saying, well, what can we do to build that brand? What can we do to monetize that audience? Because revenue is falling in terms of your primary commission. So maybe you don't make as much of a production fee on the program as you did originally. So you need to make that up somehow. There's been some great attempts to merchandise things like Coronation Street, and yes, you can get a tea towel and you can get a Ridley's pint pot and that sort of stuff. But in terms of real merchandise, it's novelty value. It's not really anything that will generate vast sums of money for you as a production company. But then again, there are shows that have gone out where you can genuinely tap into that. And that could be anything from, a great example is things like the engineering series, things like megastructures and that sort of stuff. Actually, there's a really fantastic core audience that will watch that time and time and time again. The DVDs for those are fantastic, and they sell all over the world. But you could do a coffee table book, nice big glossy book for Christmas, big photographs of monster trucks or whatever else you want to do. It's all about thinking about what the market, what your target audience is, and what do they buy. One of the interesting things that a lot of UK producers don't do is look at co-productions. Now, a co-production can mean anything from a range of different options. So at the one end, you've got a co-production, which is someone who is genuinely editorially producing the program with you, and is actually bringing something to the table in terms of the content or the style or the access. At the other end of the table, it's literally just a broadcast license, but they're calling it a co-production because they have editorial involvement, just like any broadcaster would do. The interesting thing is to try and work out what the options are available for your project. So, for example, factual series are absolutely fantastic in terms of travelling. So they're not very domestic. People all over the world will watch a factual series about tall buildings, about engineering, about trains, whatever it is. So there's already an international market for that content. So option one, you could go to a distributor, and the distributor will say, we can sell that, and we'll give you X thousand pounds as an advance against the sales internationally. So that's fairly straightforward, that's fairly simple to do. They take the risk, they're going to give you some money, and it's up to them to then go and sell it. And actually, if you then earn out, you get some money from it, so that's great. But it's going to be a little while down the line. You're not going to get that money straight away because they've got to make a certain amount of sales to get that advance back first. And of course, every sale they make, they take a commission off the top, which again further delays the time where you actually recoup and start getting some revenue in. But if you think your programme, for argument's sake, the Canadians might like it. The Canadian broadcasters, they have an interesting market. It's kind of part American, part UK, but they really like UK produced programmes. So you can say, okay, well maybe we could go to the Canadians and we could get a pre-sale. And they might well do that to you. They might say, great, we will give you a licence fee now that will go towards your programme budget, and you deliver to us a Canadian version of the programme. It might be that it's a slightly different voiceover, it might be slightly different running time. The idea is always to try and make sure you have as few versions as possible, obviously, because that increases your costs. But immediately you've got two broadcasters. You could, in theory, you could do all the filming in the UK and all the posts in Canada. And that would trigger the treaty co-production if you fill in all the rules, and the broadcaster will give you, on average, 50 to 80% more money than you started with. There are some downsides to it, I have to say, because when you do a treaty co-production, the Canadian production company becomes a co-producer. So they share your production fee, they share your back end, they share your rights, but the net result is normally that your budget goes up considerably, but your financing goes up more, and so even though it's costing you money, you come out ahead.